What up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Let's Hawk It Out live. Not really live, but we are on the internet for everybody out there to see. And I know I said after the last episode that we were done. We weren't coming back until the NFL draft, ladies and gentlemen. I gave my predictions for the playoffs. Did Detroit and Miami make it? I don't know. Here we are 2 days later. Damn, that game on Sunday night, dude. Oh man, I was pulling for the Dolphins. Fucking Buffalo Bills, man. Totally screwed me over, but that's neither here nor there. We are here to talk about breaking news in the NFL, breaking news in the Seattle Seahawks organization. Pete Carroll, after 14 seasons, is stepping down as the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I think a lot of people out there were like, well, anybody that watched the Pete Carroll show on Monday knows that he fully said intended to come back for a 15th season with the Seattle Seahawks, but the head of the organization, they chose differently. And here we are. Pete Carroll today giving a press conference, breaking down in tears because, man, what history this guy has laid out here in Seattle. I mean, fans, what are your immediate thoughts? I know my immediate thoughts were shock. I was immediately in shock over the news. My immediate thoughts were like, Godspeed, Pete Carroll. Like, you were the best coach ever to coach within the Seattle Seahawks. I understand he was only the 8th coach in history, but by God, the most winningest coach in franchise history, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to bring up the numbers here. I mean, when you take a look at Pete Carroll's record, 137 wins, 89 losses, and 1 tie against the Arizona Cardinals several years back on Sunday Night Football. I remember that game very specifically. But with that being said, Pete Carroll is out. I was at a loss for words, honestly. When I first saw the news, I was like, no way. Because again, we were just on this podcast a couple days ago talking about how, like, despite a very underwhelming season, like, Pete Carroll's coming back for a 15th season as head coach, right? Like, he didn't coach himself out of a job, right? Well, Jody Allen thought otherwise, and John Schneider now, he's being kept on as the general manager, and now has the keys to the castle, as they said. He has the keys to the Ferrari. I mean, he's in charge of the Seattle Seahawks, right? I mean, he is the one that's going to be ultimately making the decision of who the next head coach will be. And that's news. That's news. Now, I don't want to call it a mutiny or anything like that, but what was said behind closed doors that led to this fallout here today with this announcement, this press conference. I mean, completely out of left field, okay? Again, did not see this coming. But in terms of who the next coach will be of the Seattle Seahawks, who will be the 9th coach in our history, who will enter the record books as the ninth coach of the Seattle Seahawks? I don't know. And I think we're probably going to have to be a little bit more frequent in the offseason now with, like, all of this developing news. I feel like this is a full-time job now. You need me. Let's hawk it out, baby. 24/7, 365 days a year. Let's do this. But we're not going to talk about that. We're not even going to speculate on who the next head coach could be. But today, I want to celebrate Pete Carroll. I want to celebrate what he did, what he brought to the town of Seattle. Much respect, man. I just want to start by saying that I have nothing but respect for Pete Carroll. He, by all means, is he has to be like the coach, right? Like, I understand, there's other people, within the record books there that in the history of, all the team franchises in Seattle, you got your Sonics coaches, you got your Mariners coaches, you got your Dave Haxall. I mean, he's the only coach of the Kraken at this point. Sounders too, you can throw them in along with the Storm. I mean, are we all a fan of? I would like to think we're all a fan of the Seattle Storm, dude. I need to get a Seattle Storm jersey, dude. I think that's one of the. I definitely need to look into that. I never even thought about getting a Seattle Storm jersey. I don't own one single piece of Seattle Storm merch, to be honest. That and or Sounders. But I digress. Pete Carroll is and will always be I don't know, I want to say always, but he definitely is predominantly my favorite coach, uh, you know, of any of our major league, franchises. I remember the day specifically that he came to Seattle. I remember driving and hearing it on ESPN. Albeit back then, going into 2010 or whatnot, we're coming off the Mike Holmgren era. Jim Mora had just finished his first season as the as the Seattle Seahawks head coach, and it wasn't pretty. I mean, it definitely wasn't pretty that year. But I remember being optimistic, like, yeah, it was his first season. Of course, there's going to be a rebuilding effort here, but you know, Pete Carroll came on the market, man. I mean, at that point, they were just like kind of like kind of similar to what happened today. To be honest, the feeling was it was very abrupt. Like Jim Moore is out, Pete Carroll is in. And that's kind of how the legacy starts, right? He gets introduced as the head coach. He declines the general manager position, brings in John Schneider, and they set to make franchise history and take us to we went to 2 Super Bowls, but take us at least winning 1 Super Bowl, man, almost 2. And like I've said, the rest of the this whole season, I've really have emphasized that I really felt like we've been chasing that dragon ever since. I mean, the teams have been good. A lot of those teams were above average good, but they weren't meeting the expectations of what happened the 2 years that we went to the Super Bowl. I mean, we just weren't matching that energy. We weren't matching that production. I understand the NFL is a very, very tough league. I understand I mean, again, purely just as a fan, I understand that, any given Sunday, dude, look what happened this past Sunday facing the Cardinals. On paper, we should have beat the shit out of the Cardinals. On paper, we should have blown out so many of these teams just based on record and personnel. But it's not like that. You never know what's going to happen in any given football game. I mean, going into the playoffs this weekend, we don't know what the hell is going to happen. I don't even know. The Ravens are the number 1 seed. San Francisco is the number 1 seed. But who knows? They may get bounced out in the divisional round. Maybe, maybe not. I digress, though. So, 14 seasons Pete Carroll has been here. And again, only 4 of those seasons we didn't make the playoffs, including this year. That's awesome. Again, you just name off again that his record of 137 wins and 89 losses, dude, one tie. I mean, outside of Bill Belichick, I heard I want to say maybe it was Adam Schefter on ESPN. He made the comment saying that we are the New England Patriots of the West Coast at one point with Pete Carroll out here. I mean, 72 years old, man, 72 years young. Such energy, such positivity. I mean, the culture that he built in that franchise, man, man, it's just nothing but respect, I guess. I mean, it was sad to hear the news by all means, but at the same time, I mean, there's so much celebration that needs to be met for that guy. I mean, the fact that he was able to have the send off that he did today. I mean, when was the last time you saw a head coach being let go, getting a presser on the way out? And from what I hear, everybody showed up for that. That just shows you how much love this community, this state has for Pete Carroll. I mean, this guy is a surefire Hall of Famer. You don't see coaches getting this type of send off. I mean, right now, Nick Saban just retired from Alabama, same day as Pete Carroll being let go of the Seahawks. We don't know what's going to happen with Bill Belichick, but the old guard seems to be riding into the sunset right now. A lot of these older coaches that dominated in the, within the last 20, 30 years, I mean, they're not necessarily being shown the door, but I mean, it's a different game out there. And I really think that this season showed not necessarily wear and tear maybe in terms of philosophy, but it definitely just showed that what had worked in the past may not be working right now, and it's time for a change. And again, that's where Jody Allen stepped in and made this decision. Now, I don't want to necessarily call it a mutiny or anything, but John Schneider getting the keys to the castle. I mean, obviously the franchise has a lot of confidence in John Schneider, which we all should. 14 years, he's ride and die with Pete Carroll. Unfortunately, though, that marriage came to an end today. And again, nothing but love for Pete Carroll. I don't want to sit here and just, keep repeating myself here, but I it's just the respect that man has gets from the crowd out there, man. The internet community, football players alike. I mean, everybody had nothing but good things to say about Pete Carroll. And again, with this coming out of left field, it's kind of like, well, what's the future for Pete Carroll? I mean, they say that he's going to stay on with the franchise in some role. I mean, when Pete Carroll was talking today, he didn't necessarily go into detail. He doesn't even know. I don't even think they know what he's going to be doing. But at the same time, I mean, like, dude, he sounded like he didn't want to give up coaching, man. I mean, this definitely wasn't his decision, I don't think. He definitely communicated that he advocated for himself and his personnel to keep the boat going, which I was for. Like, I was, dude, just within the last couple of days, I was like, yeah, let's ride or die with Pete Carroll, dude. Like, let's give this another go around. And like, again, maybe we would have just seen the same shit that we saw this last season and the season before in terms of just producing a very average team. Again, we're not dominant. We're not like bottom of the barrel by all means, but we're definitely not trending in terms of a dominant franchise. We're not like a San Francisco 49ers, locking up to number 1 seed. It's just not happening. And as much as I've wanted to sit back the last 2 seasons, especially on this podcast, and just hype up the Seahawks and be like, dude, we can do this. Like, because again, you listen to Pete Carroll and that guy fucking hypes me up, dude. It's a positive motherfucker right there. So I believed him. I believed that this team could do good and that Geno Smith was the answer. Unfortunately, though, today, that all came to an end. And the future, we don't know if it's going to be a bright future or because again, this could go 2 ways at this point. I mean, like John Schneider, really, it's like it's his proving ground. I mean, like he could come in, hire a coach, and we could shit the bed next season. I mean, or like we could continue our winning ways here in Seattle, and it's just a little bit of a fork in the road, and here we go off this way. And hopefully, again, on to better and greater things as a franchise. That's all you can hope for. I mean, that's what you want to be optimistic for, especially if you are a positive person like myself. I mean, like I want to think the best is yet to come. But we don't know. We don't know. I mean, again, like the offseason isn't even in full effect. We're literally a couple days in. We have no idea what the future looks like here in Seattle. Again, is Pete Carroll going to stay on with the franchise in one one fashion or form? Do the robot? I don't know. I don't know if he's going to. I would like him to stay on. I'd like him to stay in the community, but let's be honest. I mean, football coaches are kind of used to this. They get hired, they get fired. It's not the norm that a coach is going to stay in the same position, with the same team for 14 years. Okay, so a lot of positions just opened up. You got Atlanta, you got the Commanders, you got the Raiders, you got Tennessee. I mean, a lot of teams just departed with their head coaches. I mean, this is what the seventh one within the last couple of days. Maybe he wants to go elsewhere. Maybe he takes this personnel and he goes elsewhere. I don't know. He's 70, 71, 72 years old. I mean, I feel like if he made up his mind that that's what he wants to do, then that's what he's going to do. And you know what? Honestly, I support it. Unlike when Russell Wilson got traded and we were all rooting against the Broncos because, again, all the details came out about Russell Wilson kind of being a diva bitch in the locker room and whatnot, and trying to get Pete Carroll fired a couple years ago. I mean, like, and plus we had draft picks on the line. Let's be perfectly honest. We had draft picks on the line, so we needed the Broncos to fail that year, which they did, and it turned out awesome. But this is different. Pete Carroll, he wasn't traded. He was just, they made a decision. They allowed him to respectfully step down from the organization, and life goes on. and that's it. And it's a sad time, but at the same time, it is somewhat, you could be somewhat optimistic about this. And again, we celebrate, the coaching career of the Seattle Seahawks, of Pete Carroll as the Seattle Seahawks head coach here on today's episode. Before we get out of here, I just want to go ahead and just kind of go through some information here of, Pete Carroll's time here with the Seahawks. I mean, you kind of bring up again his records as we go back to 2010, his first year as a head coach for the Seattle Seahawks here. So all right, so 2010, his win loss. What the fuck, guys? I thought I was prepared here. Oh my god. 11 and 12. No, that's definitely not it. Win-loss percentage. A win-loss percentage? I don't even know what that means, internet. I don't even know what that means. Passing defense. This is like way too much of a breakdown here. So anyway, all right. That's live recordings here for you, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we do here on Let's Talk It Out. Okay, so let's go ahead and just like be anyway. So again, out of 4, we only did not make the postseason. 4 seasons out of the tenure of Pete Carroll being here. Let's just go and take a look at start from the bottom here. So in 2010, we shocked the world, defeating the New Orleans Saints. That was they're coming off their Super Bowl win. Drew Brees comes to town. No one's given us a shot. Again, we got in I believe on a 9-7 record or some shit, or maybe I think it may have been a 7-9, because that was one of the years the NFC West was just complete garbage. So I remember the hype going into that playoff game just being New Orleans Saints is going to roll into Seattle and just whoop the shit out of us, right? Wasn't the case, dude. Again, Beastquake. We went on that year to the divisional round. We did lose to the Chicago Bears, which I remember, if I remember correctly, we actually had a pretty good game. It just unfortunately did not go our way that next week in the divisional round. The following season, again, we continued. So we skipped out on the 2011 playoffs. We come back in the 2012 playoffs. We're in the wild card on the road against the Washington Redskins at the time. And that was the year Robert Griffin and Andrew Luck both came to the league with Russell Wilson. Obviously, this is their rookie years. And this is pretty much the game that ruined RG3, if I remember right. He went down to that horrible field that they had out there in Washington. And basically was never the same after that. So we won that game. Then we went on to the divisional round to face the Atlanta Falcons and almost won. We literally almost went to the NFC Championship, Russell Wilson's rookie year. And unfortunately, though, we did fall to the Atlanta Falcons. Following year, dude, this is when we get to the glory years, man. We started off our 2013 playoffs that year again against the New Orleans Saints in a divisional round, because we did have the bye that year. So we took on the New Orleans Saints. We won that game. And that's the year we took on the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship. I mean, that was the year of the tip. Richard Sherman, again, someday they need to give Richard Sherman a fucking statue in Seattle, dude. Him just getting that tip, dude. I mean, I will go down as being like one of my top memories of all time as a Seattle Seahawks fan. But then, yeah, we went on to face Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl and completely blew them out. And it was the best night of my life as a Seahawks fan. Us winning that Super Bowl, Pete Carroll as the coach. I mean, does it get any better? I mean, again, not every franchise within your lifetime is going to win the championship. I mean, we just saw the Huskies lose against the Michigan Wolverines, unfortunately. And again, are they going to make it back there? I mean, sometimes it's a once in a lifetime chance. And under Pete Carroll's leadership, guys, we went and won the Super Bowl. And that's a dream come true for most of us fans out there. The following year, again, we get the first round bye in the divisional round. We take on the Carolina Panthers. We win that game. We go out. We repeat as NFC champs, obviously, and almost lose to the Green Bay Packers. I think this is the year that the game that John Ryan famously They're going for either a punt or a field goal. No, it was John Ryan. They must have been going for, I don't know. Anyway, John Ryan throws a fucking touchdown, and we take the lead and we win the game. I mean, come on. We go to the Super Bowl off that. I remember being at work because I wasn't able to watch that game live, and I just remember just being like, "Fuck, we're getting blown out. We're getting blown out. This is what the fuck, what the fuck." And then I'm in the lunchroom, and then we're watching it. We're like, "Holy shit, we're coming back. We're actually coming back," and we win the game, and it's like, we're going back to the Super Bowl. Holy shit. Like, this is fucking awesome. And then we face off against the New England Patriots. And that game was such an awesome game. It went back and forth, lead change after lead change. And unfortunately, it didn't turn out our way. I mean, it came down to, should have handed it off to beast mode. But, Pete Carroll has his reasons. And, if you go up and look up his explanation on why they went with a pass instead of the run, I mean, you win some, you lose some, and sometimes you'll lose on the biggest stage. Unfortunately, again, Pete Carroll did not come up with his second consecutive Super Bowl ring, which I think if we would have won that, dude, I think a lot more people would be like a little bit more apt to keep, he would have been a little bit more up there in the national conversation, I think, as like one of the great coaches. Because I think, Pete Carroll's always up there as like one of the great coaches, but let's be honest, on the national scene in terms of like the conversation, I mean, anything that's from Seattle, whether it be hockey, basketball, baseball, football, I mean, we're just Seattle, Washington, up in the Pacific Northwest. No one typically gives a shit about us. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's just what it is. We're underdogs for life. I mean, that's just how we are up here. And I think though, if we would have won that Super Bowl that year, dude, I think honestly that Pete Carroll could have like been more in that national conversation. So, okay, are we muted? Are we unmuted now? I think we're muted. Was I unmuted the whole time? I don't even know. I don't know, guys. This is what happens when I record and get lost thought. Okay. So going ahead and continuing on here. So the following year we played in the wild card against the Minnesota Vikings, 2015, which I think this was that Ice Bowl. I don't know if you guys remember that. I mean, we all remember that. We were in between the Vikings getting their new stadium, so they were playing at the Minnesota College field, and it was like negative degrees, or at least like very low degrees. And I don't think it was negative, but it was like, dude, like in the low teens or whatnot. I just remember that's the year Hauschka missed the field goal, and we barely won that game. And it's one of those games where it's just like we should have lost. And then the next year they brought Hauschka on because, so just finishing out the 2015 playoff run. We go on and face the Carolina Panthers in a divisional loss, which, dude, to be honest, like maybe is that the year? I want to say that is the year Carolina went to the Super Bowl and lost against the Denver Broncos that year. That must have been because I don't remember that game. Off the top of my head, I really don't remember that game. Maybe I should look it up on YouTube, dude. I'll rewatch it. So yeah, obviously we brought on Steven Hauschka the following year, and we didn't make the playoffs. Wait, did we? 2015. Oh no, we did. We did make the playoffs in 2016. My bad. We had a home game against the Detroit Lions that year, and then we lost against the Atlanta Falcons again on the road. So our treatment in Atlanta is just not good. I think it was also the same year that the Huskies went and played Alabama on the road, and I think we lost that game too. So dude, again, Atlanta is not a good place for Seattle, dude. So yeah, we missed the 2017 playoffs. We make a return in the 2018, and this is kind of where we start. Again, you've seen a pattern here ever since that 2013, 2014 playoff runs. We're like wild card division out, wild card division out. We could make it to the playoffs again in 2018. We're on the road against the Cowboys, out in the wild card. We make a return in 2019. We're on the road again. Again, you see, we're not dominating like we had with home field advantage years prior. We go on the road. We win in Philadelphia, but then immediately lose in the division against Green Bay. the following week in 2020. And then again, back-to-back outs. 2020 playoffs. We have a home game wild card against Los Angeles Rams. They beat us with their backup. They had their backup quarterback in. He gets hurt. They bring in their hurt starting quarterback. It's it. And we're done. And we had a good season that year. The year we lost against the Los Angeles Rams, like, we had a super good season where it was like, dude, we may get the first round bye. Unfortunately, we stumbled, but I digress. Again, then last year, Pete Carroll's final appearance as the Seattle Seahawks head coach, we go on the road against San Francisco, playing them for a third time that year, and we get bounced out of the wild card. And again, like, if we would have made the playoffs this year, I really do feel like it most likely would have been the same results, unfortunately. And again, I think that's probably why Jody Allen made the decision that we're moving forward. It's time to cut ties. And Pete Carroll, we gave you the send off that you deserve. And, best of luck with your future endeavors, whether or not that's in Seattle or not. I don't know. But we'll go ahead and wrap it up here on the podcast. Again, I just wanted to come on here and again celebrate Pete Carroll, celebrate the career that he had here in Seattle and the Super Bowl win that he brought to our town, dude. I mean, again, if that's once, I mean, my dad was a Seattle Seahawks fan from the year they came into the league. He literally died months after we lost the Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So in his lifetime, he saw them go to the Super Bowl and lose. He never got to see the Pete Carroll era, and he never got to see the win that came at MetLife Stadium. And that's unfortunate for a lot of people. But again, that's life. Unfortunately, sports, it's not always going to go your way. And we had such good luck with Pete Carroll for the last 14 seasons. And I really think we need to appreciate that today. Take a look back. We don't know what the future holds for us, but Pete Carroll, you don't get history like that all the time, ladies and gentlemen. I really think this is one of those moments where we just need to appreciate it as much as we can. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to end it for us here on this episode. And I guess we're going to have more episodes, dude. So as news breaks in terms of our head coaching search, I mean, we're going to be here. We're going to be here for the off season. So anytime some new news pops up, be expecting a brand new episode of Let's Talk It Out. Again, as always, check out Video Rental Chaos. Subscribe to the page. It takes 30 seconds. Stop being a lazy YouTuber and subscribe and like this video. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the Video Rental Chaos. Let's Talk It Out. Spin this with Kevin Porter. You get it. We'll see you guys next time. Peace. This is